Peace, 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 everyone. My name is Michael Jordan, aka the Sirius Alchemist, and as I always say, I'm serious about my shit. So welcome back to another Saturday book review. You know what I'm saying? Every Saturday I throw different books at y'all to review. Hopefully y'all go get them. Today's book review is a good one. I got a good one for y'all. Um, the Invention of Ancient Israel. The Silencing of Palestinian History by Keith W. Whitelam. That's Keith W. Whitelam. 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 Family, this book right here is a must-have in your library. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to go over a little bit of this. I'm going to read something from the back like I always do. Again, this is The Invention of Ancient Israel, The Silencing of Palestinian History by Keith W. Whitelam. Okay, I'm going to read a little something from the back. It says, The Invention of Ancient Israel is a remarkable work of scholarship, certainly audacious enough, despite its painstaking manner, to undermine many unthinking presuppositions about ancient biblical history. The book possesses that keen independence of spirit and vision that is so rare and so invigorating when one encounters it. Man, this book is a must-have in your library, fam. I'm telling you right now. This is a brave, fascinating, and important book. William Dalrymple, Sunday Times. And it goes on to say, the invention of ancient Israel shows how the history of ancient Palestine has been obscured by the search for Israel. Keith W. Whitelam argues that ancient Israel has been invented by scholars in the image of a European nation state. He explores the theological and political assumptions which have shaped research into ancient Israel by biblical scholars and contributed to the vast network of scholarship which said identified as Orientalist discourse. Keith W. Whitelam's groundbreaking study argues that biblical scholars, through their own traditional view of this region, have contributed to the disposition of both a Palestinian land and a Palestinian past. This is important reading for historians, biblical specialists, social anthropologists, and all those who are interested in the history of ancient Israel and Palestine. Keith W. Whitelam is a professor of religious studies and head of department at the University of Stirling. He is the co-author of The Emergence of Early Israel in Historical Perspective and has produced a series of articles on ancient Israelite and Palestinian history. Family, this book is a must-have in your library. If you want to understand what's happening in the world and why things are happening like why they are like today and the way they are today, get this book. And the cover is real interesting because if you really look at the cover real close, it's going to show you something about that part of the world, what they call the Middle East. And while speaking about the Middle East, I wonder, is there a Middle West? Is there a Middle North or a Middle South? Just curious. Just want to put that out there. Just curious. But anyway, yeah, this book is worth having in your library, family. And then I'm going to read a little something out of here like I always do. Y'all know how I do, family. I always read a little something out of here. But for y'all, go out and get this book. Because, this book is hard to get. And it ain't going to be around too long. So if you can get your hands on it right now, go get your hands on it, family. Because this book is really important piece of the puzzle to have in your library. But I'm going to go ahead and read a little piece out here like I always do, family. And the piece that I'm going to read is on page 68 and 69. I'm going to say 69. I'm going to say page 69. Yeah, page 69. And it's kind of a lengthy piece, but trust me, family, it's worth it. Y'all know I try to read something that's pretty profound that I find in the book. And hopefully it'll spark something and somebody out there to go get the book. That's what I'm hoping, so they can read it for themselves and learn the history of Palestine and Israel. So here we go. One of the major issues raised by such an approach is the relationship between the study of the history of the region and biblical studies in general. Clearly, the term biblical history is no longer appropriate for the kind of exercise being advocated here. The biblical text no longer forms the basis of or sets the agenda for the research in the same way that it has dominated past approaches to the problem. Syrio-Palestinian archaeology broke away from the constraints of biblical archaeology in the pioneering work of W.G. Dever. It is now time for Palestinian history to come of age and formally reject the agenda and constraints of biblical history. Those scholars concerned with understanding the social and political milieu from which the Hebrew Bible arose must pursue research into the communities which gave rise to these traditions in their regional and interregional environments. But we must also recognize that the region possesses a legitimate history which is much wider than these communities or the texts to which they gave rise. Thompson, 1987-36, agrees that Israel history, understood as distinct from biblical historiography and the history of Israel's origin, fall unquestionably and escapably into the context of regional, historical, geographical changes in the history of Palestine. Palestinian history must come of age through the pursuit of all aspects of the region's history, regardless of whether or not it sheds light on the development and understanding of the text of the Hebrew Bible. It demands its own time.
Please try again.
It demands its own time and space denied to it for more than a century by the discourse of biblical studies. It is the historian who must set the agenda and not the theologian. In the past, the theologian has dictated the concerns and methods to be employed in the study of the history of Israel on the grounds that the Hebrew Bible is the only source of evidence and is their domain. Now, the historian must claim the right to set the agenda and research strategies. Attempts by theologians or exegetes to try to understand and appropriate the results of such history as they relate, if at all, to the interpretation of the text is a separate issue which remains the domain of biblical studies. Palestinian history must be granted its own temporal and geographical domain outside the discourse of biblical studies. The discourse on the Palestinian past is, to adapt, said 1992, a contest between affirmation and denial in which ancient Israel has taken control of Palestinian time and space. Furthermore, in reclaiming the temporal and spatial elements for such a regional history as part of world time, it has to be recognized for its own intrinsic value and not solely as the locus for the origins of European civilization. The invention and construction of America provides an analogy with the way in which Palestine has been appropriated, divested of meaning, and its history effectively silenced. O'Gorman, 1961, makes a similar point to those advanced above about the domination of all history by Europe in reference to the discovery and invention of America. Europe became history's paradigm, and the European way of life came to be regarded as the supreme criterion by which to judge the value and meaning of all other forms of civilization. The invention of America by Europe is paralleled by the invention of ancient Israel by biblical specialists. What O'Gorman has to say about the invention of America could just as easily be applied to the discourse of biblical studies and its invention of ancient Israel. And he goes on to say, America was no more than a potentiality which could be realized only by receiving and fulfilling the values and ideas of European culture. America, in fact, could acquire historical significance only by becoming another Europe. Such was the spiritual or historical being that was identified for America. O'Gorman, 1961. Just as America was invented in the image of its inventor, O'Gorman, 1961, so ancient Israel was invented in terms of the European nation state. Or as Chakrabarty, 1992, put it, Europe is the silent referent in historical knowledge. The dominant discourse of biblical studies has masked the means by which the term Palestine has been divested of spatial and temporal significance. Palestinian history has become one of the many excluded histories divested of significance in terms of world history and relegated to prehistory, Europe, and later Zionism, has rescued the historical significance of the region in its search for ancient Israel, a search for its own cultural roots, which has silenced Palestinian history. It is this invention to which we must now turn in order to illustrate the ways in which the dominant discourse of biblical studies have achieved this in the name of objective scholarship. Family. this book is a must-have in your library. I'm telling you, this book goes deep. What I'm reading just don't even do justice of what the value of this book holds. And what I just read from you is on page 68 and 69 in The Invention of Ancient Israel by Keith W. Whiteham. Family, this book is a must-have in your library. You know what I'm saying? There ain't too much more I can say about it. The book speaks for itself. I want to make sure that I document this, I get it, recorded, and some people go out and get it. Go out and get the book and read it for yourself, family, because it'll clear up a lot of things that you might be wondering about. You know what I'm saying? So again, my name is Michael Jordan, aka the Sirius Alchemist. If you're new, you know what I'm saying, welcome. I hope you're enjoying the content. And if you're coming back, for the second or third or however many times, I appreciate you. I really do. I really, really appreciate y'all tuning in. So at the end of the day, it's about y'all learning something, you know what I'm saying, and growing and bettering your communities and your families. So again, my name is Michael Jordan, aka the Serious Alchemist. If you would like a reading from me, I'll leave my email down in the description box down there. Hit me up, you know what I'm saying, if you want to a reading, you know what I'm saying? I do tarot readings, I do astrology readings, you know what I'm saying? So hit me up. So until the next video, like I always say, I'm serious about my shit. Peace.